I was recently at a meetup group and we're all discussing the different things that disturb our inner peace. And some people, one person who was sitting in traffic, drove him crazy, kind of got his blood boiling. Another person, it was construction at the apartment complex he lived. It would start like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and they would drop things from the second floor. They'd use power drills, and that would disrupt him from a sound sleep, and that disturbs his inner peace. Another lady, this was the one that really stood out in my mind and is a perfect analogy. She said every morning about 100, 200, 300, 400 crows will come and congregate around her house on the trees and squaw, and squaw, and squaw. And she says it just eats her up. It drives her absolutely crazy, and she can't take it. She's tried everything, finding if there's any legal way to get rid of them. There's no legal way to get rid of them, so she has to accept it. But she hasn't, so it still makes her disturbed, emotionally, spiritually disturbed. And I was thinking, what a great analogy for our lives. What is our personal crow? And maybe this lady couldn't handle hundreds and hundreds of crows every single day, day after day, early in the morning. That's probably too big of a nut to crack. But maybe if there was a couple crows, 3 crows, 4 crows, maybe that she can handle. And so I think in our lives, look at what your crows are. And don't start by looking at the big amount of crows, the big crows that are tough to crack. Look at the crows that are minimal. You know, maybe standing in line might be a crow. Maybe something your spouse or mate that normally drives you a little bit crazy, that might be your crow. Maybe it is something related to money. Everybody has their own personal set of crows. Start with the baby crows. And taking this analogy, I had such a breakthrough realization today. I went to a flotation tank. And if you don't know where it is, it's a tank where you sit in, I think it's like Epsom salt, and you just lay back and you float. It's the most surreal experience I've ever had. I was able to achieve a level of meditation that I've never achieved before. Really deep, deep, intense meditation. And I walked out of there and I felt like it was just a buzzing, a natural high. I felt just love emanating from me, and peace and happiness and joy, and like nothing really can disturb this glow that just was all throughout my body, all throughout my being. Bliss. I just felt bliss. And I got a glimpse of what really enlightened people must feel like on an ongoing basis. Well, one of my crows, my big crow, is people that talk about themselves or talk about just really nothing, and consume and eat away at your time, and there's really no substance to what they have to say, and they just talk on and on and on. Something that is a challenging thing for me to deal with, and oftentimes I'm honest and just say, hey, listen, you know what? You talked about yourself for the last 20 minutes. Snap out of it. There's more to life than yourself. In a polite way, of course. So I'm getting out of this beautiful, enlightened state of being. And I'm just glowing and basking in this aura. I come out, and there's a lady who starts talking to me. And she starts telling me, one thing, and I think, okay, this is going to be a short little story she's going to tell me. And it drags on and on. And initially, it was a little crow. Like for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I could feel love for her. And I feel like, I'm with you, I'm present, I'm just in such a blissful state of being. I don't mind that you're going on and on. Well, after about 15, 20 minutes, I had enough. I felt like this was really raining on everything that I had achieved or felt when I was in the flotation tank. It brought me back to reality after about 20 minutes of listening to this conversation drag on and on and on. And so then I get out of my car, finally I'm able to leave. Just kind of my body language walked straight out the door while she was still talking. And I got in my car, and I get in my car, and there's traffic. And I'm sitting in traffic. And then so that level of enlightenment or peace that I had now has dissipated even further. Traffic doesn't bother me so much, but it was such a slap in the face, or like a bucket of cold water over my head, when I had achieved such peace, and then to be thrown out into the real world, and especially with the crows, the things that challenge my spiritual practices. And then I had just a real clear awakening of, my God, this is beautiful. This experience is such a beautiful experience, because previously, and this is what many people think, they'll do long meditation, or hours of meditation. They'll go to retreats. They'll go to read books. They'll go spend time in nature. They will listen to audio cassettes. They'll surround themselves with enlightened spiritual people, and it like fills up that tank of joy. It just fills it up, and you feel, oh my gosh, I'm just so happy. I'm so peaceful right now, so content. And then bam, you go out in the real world, and you just get kind of slapped around with, the neuroses that exist in the real world, and then also the crows that we struggle with as individuals. So I had even though I was back to normal after sitting in traffic for, like 20 minutes or so, and the preceding conversation, I was still feeling good, but nothing like when I first walked out of there, that pure state. And then I was thinking about all these gurus and really spiritual people. It's a lot easier to be spiritual, to be holy, to emanate love when you're in India living in an ashram surrounded by like-minded people, where there's not a lot of stress and pressure and trials and tribulations. It's easy to be enlightened when you're an author. If you're in America and you're a famous book author, and you're surrounded by, you have enough money, you don't have to work, you're able to teach to make your living, and you're surrounded by like-minded people. And I thought, what about for the common man? What about for us? And I think the realization I had, instead of chasing all these different things, the ashrams, the gurus, the books, the teachers, all these things, the hours and hours of meditation, there are different religions. What about having everyday moment-to-moment practice? So making our living world, day-to-day life, our temple. And so now, and we practice of not letting the crows, squaw, bother us. And so we start small, start with the little things. Sitting in traffic might be the little thing. Someone says a rude comment. Well, that's a great opportunity for spiritual practice. That's a small crow, and that's not going to bother me. And then once you get the baby crows and you're able to deal with them, then you take the bigger crows. I think what we struggle with, a lot of people struggle with, and I did, is I would try to tackle the big crows right away, and I'd read this book and I'd have this idea, and it would say you should feel blissful, inner peace, and don't let things bother you, and go inward, and all these different practices. But the moment I met my big crow, like a puff of cloud, puff of smoke, it all vanished. So I originally was so attached to this flotation tank, I thought, man, this is beautiful. I'm going to go back there and really have some deep, profound meditations. But then I thought, not that there's anything wrong with flotation tanks, but then I thought, well, it wears off quickly, and why not make my flotation tank the world in which I surround myself?